Welcome back to GearWire.com. We're taking a look at the Line 6 Lowdown HD 750. It's the 750 watt head version of the Lowdown amps. Line 6's base amp modeling amp. This amp has a number of different base models. It's got extensive EQing. It has 4 channel memories. It does have an optical compressor modeler built in here. There's a synth bass built in here. There are a couple of effects with this little smart effect selector here. And it's 750 watts, so it's pretty loud. Right now we're listening to the direct out, which is a cabinet simulating direct out from the back of the head. Let's go through some of the different models that are on here. Let's start off with clean. For all the amps, we have a drive control right here, which is basically your preamp level. And the EQ for, well, all the non-synth bass models are, we've got a bass, we've got a low mid, and a high mid, and a treble. So it's basically a 4-band semi-parametric EQ. And then we've got a channel volume for each different channel, which is going to come in handy, and I'll tell you why later. Let's listen to the opto compressor here while we're on the clean channel. You can hear it's sort of, it's almost an expander. You can hear the noise floor come up as you turn the threshold up, which means that your output volume is going to stay the same relative to whatever your master volume is. If I slam on it with the opto compressor off, and then we crank it, you're going to get, well, a similar output anyway. Let's just keep that down there. It's a pretty smooth compressor. It's not the punchiest sounding compressor. Anyway, let's move on to the next amp simulation here, which is called R&B. R&B is basically simulating an old Ampeg like B15 flip top, So, it's sort of that sort of old Motown, old bluesy sound. If we crank the drive, we can get, each of these has its own sort of little overdrive. That's the drive, just totally cranked. Let's make sure all these EQs are sort of in the middle here. All right, let's move on to the rock simulation, which is supposed to be like an SVT type. Now, each of these amps also has a little deep switch, which is sort of like the Ampeg Ultra Low switch. Let's toggle that on and off again. Okay. Let's move on to the next simulation here. This one's called Brit. Now, Brit is basically an emulation of the Marshall Super Bass. To my ear, it's one of the best sounding simulations that's on this thing. Let's take the drive down on that. Even with the drive all the way down, we've got a slightly hot, overdriven sound. If we really crank the drive, now it starts sounding a little nasty. Let's move on to grind. Now, grind is it's a combination of a clean signal plus an emulation of the a Sans amp bass driver. which is just a really super thick overdrive sound. And now let's move on to the last section here, which is the synth bass. Which tracks really wacky. That's all these EQ and the opto compressor, all those change. The bass now becomes your cutoff frequency. Low mid becomes a resonance. High mid becomes your envelope. And treble becomes your attack and decay. And then opto compressor becomes the waveform selection. All right, anyway, let's go back to the rock amp setting and check out some of the effects that are built into this thing. And the first one thing we have is a filter, which is basically an envelope follower. Not the greatest envelope follower sound. There is an octave effect here. Which is actually, it tracks pretty well. And then the last effect we have on here is chorus. Which is a pretty thick, nice sounding chorus. There are 4 channel memories here. As you can see, this light has been blinking the entire time. That's because we've changed the parameters of whatever this preset is. If we cycle through the presets, you can see stuff changing. If you want to set one of the presets as something, you select it, change it to how you want it to sound, and then just hold it down until it blinks twice. And now we've set that preset. There's a tuner right here. When it's not engaged, it shows you if you're clipping the input. There's passive and active inputs here. Master volume over here. Let's turn this thing around and look at the outputs and such on the back. So as we can see, we're coming out of the direct out right now, cabinet emulated direct out. There's also a pre-out, so if you want to pair this amp with a lower power amp, or a tube power amp, let's say, you can run the pre-out into the effects loop return. There is an input here for the FBV pedal, one of the FBV pedals. You can use any of the sort of FBV pedals to access different settings. There's actually, if you add an FBV pedal, excuse me, you can access some settings that you wouldn't normally be able to access with just the front panel. There's a headphones out for practice. There's even a CD and MP3 input there. There's our power switch on the back. Now you can see it's speak on only outputs here, so do what you will with that. It handles down to a 4 ohm load. It's 750 watts at 4 ohms. And right here is a very, very quiet fan that keeps this amp running pretty cool. There you go. That is the Line 6 Lowdown HD 750 bass head, a 750 watt modeling bass head made for the road, for road domination. Hook it up to an 8x10 cabinet and blow everyone away with your modeling. There you go. You've been watching GearWire.com, and I'm Owen O'Malley.